Okay, and we're live. So we'll just wait a couple of seconds for some people to join. It's so nice to have you here, Charlie.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining in the middle of the day on a Monday. I know
Mm.
it's a difficult time to be
It's
here,
a
but
very welcome distraction from all the business admin that I'm wading through.
awesome. Okay, well, I'm happy to distract. Welcome to the Divergent Discussion, everyone. My name is Carla Pretorius. I always read my bio and I wonder, like, when am I actually going to learn who I am? So I'm a trained psychologist, a registered psychotherapist. I'm the clinical lead here at Caboose, and I'm currently in Portugal. I'm doing my PhD specifically on ADHD in women. So that's a bit about me. Caboose exists to create belonging, understanding, and support for neurodivergent people. At the heart of what we do are our neuro nuggets, our short, practical guides that help you understand how your brain works and find ways to make work and life easier. They also help workplaces build genuinely inclusive spaces. This is just a reminder for everyone that is here or that's watching it, I guess. Then you'll know that it's being recorded and it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. We'll also have time at the end of for some audience questions. So if you have any questions, you can just put them into the chat. I'm just going to open the chat really quickly here on the side so that I can see if any questions do come in. And I'll monitor those so that we can have like 10 minutes or so at the end. Charlie, I'm going to do a bio, but please stop me or change it at any point. I love your name, Charlie Hart. It sounds so perfect.
Thank you.
Charlie Hart, also
Yeah.
known as Awesome Charlie. That's also great. She, they is a professional keynote speaker and experienced, do I say CIPD? Qualified HR
CIPD
analyst?
qualified, yeah. That's the HR professional organisation in the UK.
Okay. HR analyst and a widely recognized neurodiversity advocate. Charlie's work centers neurodivergent lived experiences, which is great because we need more of that, underpinned by expertise in human resources, data, and inclusion practice, which is great because you're kind of bringing in both worlds.
Yeah. And I'm a parent of neurodivergent teenagers as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
multifaceted.
Yeah, teenagers. Ooh, that's exciting. Is it? No, I'm joking. I think I was an okay teenager until I wasn't. But let's jump into the questions because we've got quite a few questions to get through. But I wanted to know, Charlie, can you start by sharing a bit about your own journey in neurodivergence and maybe also the LGBTQIA plus identity?
Yeah, sure. So I've always known I'm a bit weird and different, but I didn't realise that I was neurodivergent until I was in my 40s. So at the age of 42, that was back in 2018, I finally realised that it's not just my brother and my son that are autistic, that it runs in the family and also in my husband's family and my first husband's family as well. So we're a big
Oh,
autistic family, just we didn't know. The kind of frame of reference for autism was the higher needs type with like my
mhm.
brother has with learning disabilities. So it took me a really long time to realise it could apply to me as well. But I've known since my mid-teens that I'm bisexual. And then when I found out about pansexual, I thought, well, that definition fits as well. And I've always
Yeah,
been a tomboy, so I'm gender non-conforming. So a
okay.
lot of my earlier adulthood, when I was struggling with things like friendship dynamics and working relationships and social differences, I did think that it was a lot to do with being a tomboy and being bisexual. And then
Mhm.
realizing that I was autistic in my 40s, I thought, okay, so there's multiple things going on, and that compounds the struggles that I
Mhm.
have. I've been later diagnosed as well with PTSD and ADHD, so I describe myself as a queer ADHDer.
Okay. I think a lot of people need a bit of an update to the terms that we use as, like if we talk about the LGBTQIA plus community, I sometimes get the abbreviation wrong.
Yeah.
I think we sometimes mis misidentify a lot. And I mean, even with the best intentions, pansexual is when you're not attracted to one type, right?
You could
It's throughout.
pansexual means that you're attracted regardless of gender.
Okay.
And actually, that's an old definition for bisexual as well. So they're
Yeah.
kind of the same. They're all in the same spectrum.
Yeah.
Bisexual, on the other hand, I've seen it described as being attracted to two or more genders, which is kind of clunky. But
Mm,
I like the definition that says that we experience both heterosexual and homosexual attraction. So that's where the two
okay.
comes from for the bi part of it. It's two
Okay.
different kinds of attraction. It's to the same gender as ourselves or to a different gender.
Yeah, I think I would need to speak about it more because I think people are interested and they just don't really know. Because when you described yourself there, I mean, that sounds very much like me growing up. Like I was such a tomboy. I
Yeah.
wouldn't really say that I was very girly, and I never thought about my wedding one day, for example, like a white dress or something, and I'm not married. So that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't follow the kind of fashion police girl crowd,
Uh,
popular girl crowd at my school at all. I was
yeah.
always into the boyish hobbies and had short
Mm,
hair and no makeup and
yeah.
generally lived in tracksuits and trainers. And I was
Yeah.
into things like bird watching and martial arts. I did taekwondo. So
Cool.
absolutely not at all girly. And
Yeah.
then in my adult life, I've been uncomfortable with things like girls' nights out and anything really that segregates by gender, because I never
Mm.
felt like I fitted in to any gendered group. I'd much rather be in mixed gender company.
Yeah, that's interesting and very true as well. I mean, I'm still doing combat sport now, and I'm doing rock climbing, and it's really like it makes a lot more sense than anything
Yeah.
girly that I've tried or haven't tried even. I forgot to say the title actually of our talk today is the double
Oh, yeah.
rainbow connection. I always forget the most important part. Neurodivergent, and LGBTQIA+. Then I wanted to ask you about the statistics. So can you
Mhm.
maybe share a bit about the latest statistics of individuals who are neurodivergent and in the LGBT?
Yeah.
Isn't there a
Yeah.
shorter way even to say this? Because it's
Queer.
like
Yeah.
such. Okay, maybe just queer.
Okay.
Yeah, queer
Um,
community.
so queer is something that was regarded as a slur for a long time, but then a lot of people who are somewhere on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum thought we'll reclaim that and use it to
Nice.
basically say that we're not cis het, that
Mm,
but without being really closely defined. It's nice and vague, and it's a
mm,
real umbrella term.
that's awesome.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I call it the double rainbow intersection. I didn't coin it myself, but I've kind of picked this up. But it's talking about how we live on multiple spectrums. So autism is a spectrum, neurodivergence is a spectrum, LGBTQIA plus is a spectrum, and then the identities within that usually are as well. So BIPAN is a spectrum as well. And they are very interlinked and there's a strong correlation. So if we look, for example, at just whether people are LGBT, they're 6 to 8 times more likely to identify as LGBTQIA plus than the general population if they're autistic. So that
Six.
was
What
proven
did you
in
say?
a recent study. I can send the links out actually to so that you've got them to refer to. So ADHD is also strongly associated with higher rates of bisexuality, pansexuality, and queer identities in general. Don't know whether that's because there's a link between those identities and ADHD or whether it's because of the link between autism and ADHD. It's kind of hard to say.
Mm,
If we look at trans and non-binary identities, trans and non-binary people show far higher rates of autism and ADHD, with some studies that suggest that up to 40% of trans people meet the criteria for autism. And then if you look at autistic people, up to 70% of them report gender variance or a non-cisgender identity. So that would include me in that.
mm,
And also asexuality and aromantic identities are much more common in autistic people. So there's loads and loads of correlation there. But then,
Yeah.
and these things are not strictly on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum, but you also find more polyamory and other alternative relationship structures among neurodivergent people.
Mhm. I definitely see this in my clinical practice. I also see some like more kink
Yeah, yeah,
with
that
the
as well.
neurodivergent there's
Yeah,
like an affinity towards
yeah,
something that's a little bit different, and
yeah,
like a curiosity to see, well, I don't suit this mold, so maybe I don't suit that mold in society as well.
maybe, yeah. So I've heard some quite specific reasons for that. Like, say, if you're autistic and you really like clearly defined instructions rather than people being vague and dropping hints, then it that can
Okay.
quite lean itself to the BDSM lifestyle,
Yes,
I think.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
We received a comment here from Eric, and I think it's appropriate to ask you now because we're busy in this topic. I saw a study one time about this that queer people. I took my glasses off for the glare, and now I can't read. That queer people are more likely to be autistic.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, so there is a link there that has been, uh, it's been confirmed by academic research, but also if you just don't look at just people who are diagnosed autistic, but look at the autistic traits, then you see even more of a link. But
Yeah.
it's also been confirmed by a lot of non-official surveys as well as the peer-reviewed academic studies.
Yeah, I think more peer-reviewed studies need to be done. Because I think like also the double rainbow that you're talking about, it's quite tricky because now you're in two minority groups,
Mm,
like it's a very difficult thing to be in because I
yeah,
feel like there's a lot of like double stigma sometimes. I know
absolutely.
I'm going a bit off topic here, but yeah, I just thought
This
about that
is
when you were speaking.
something I talk a lot about in my corporate lunch and learns,
Mm,
and it's often framed as intersectionality, but I tend to reserve that word for when we're talking about the issues that are faced more by Black and minority ethnic people. So I
okay.
call it intersecting identities,
Okay, okay.
and this is the double rainbow intersection. It's a
Mm,
huge correlation, and it comes with its own set of compounding minority stress.
mm,
So we can be misdiagnosed, we can be misunderstood on more than one front,
mm,
struggle to fit in for more than one reason, be rejected by one community that we're a part of if they don't recognise the other,
exactly.
compounds issues like social communication differences
Mm,
and relationship struggles and all sorts. So it's like we're discriminated against in more than one way, but some of those things, when they're put together, can have a particularly a profound effect. So
yeah, of course.
before I knew I was autistic, I'd had a lot of problems getting on with other women, and I didn't really know why, and I thought it was just because I'm bi and a tomboy. Didn't know about the autism, but knowing now what
Mm,
I know then, it just makes so much sense.
mm,
And, like, people think that if you're bisexual, that you've got twice the chances of getting a date on a Saturday night, and it's completely the opposite. It's like you've
yeah,
got twice as much chance of being rejected or saying the wrong thing, oversharing, being awkward, not picking up on the hints that someone's interested in you, not being
mm,
able to flirt, not recognizing when someone else is flirting.
yeah, that's hard. And it's people like you that are speaking out and helping, which really makes a difference. And I know that that's a scary thing to do. I mean, I think that's why we're doing the things we're doing,
Yeah.
but sometimes it is a bit much, it can
It's
take
yeah,
its
I went
toll.
back in the closet for quite a long time at work
Mm,
actually, and I'm self-employed now and I'm 50 years old and I've just got to the point where I don't give a shit. If people
nice.
don't like
Yeah,
that I'm neurodivergent and
yeah,
queer and very open about it, then I'm not going to try and win them over.
yeah,
But as a people pleaser in my youth and someone that desperately wanted
exactly.
to be accepted and loved for who I am, it
Mm,
was really, really difficult. So
yeah,
yeah, actually took my sexual orientation out of the HR system for a really long time in my long-term career, having faced some
yeah,
misunderstandings where people who knew I was bi, because we all worked in HR and we could all see the system, were
right.
assuming that I wanted more than just a friendship or a working relationship,
Jeez.
knowing that I'm bisexual, and it's just straight up
Mhm.
biphobia. And
Yeah,
so I didn't feel safe to be open about my bisexuality for a really long time.
I'm
But
sorry.
having lost a close family member who was also autistic and queer, I've just got to the point now where I thought I'm just going to be myself, and if people don't
Mhm.
like it, they can jog on.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. And yeah, that's the best to be at this stage where we can be open and
Yeah,
also to kind of like filter out the people that we really don't want in our lives. But it takes so
absolutely.
long. I'm 41. I almost said 42. I'm like jumping my age now. 41. And I'm also now at that age where I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, or phase, I guess. You can be at this phase anytime. But
yeah,
now I'm confident enough to not care. But
yeah,
10 years ago, I would have said, no, not really. Not that's not really what I am. Or, anyways, we could talk about this for
yeah.
ages. So I'm going to stick to the questions now for a little bit. I wanted to ask you there's a well documented overlap between neurodivergence. We spoke about this now and LGBTQIA plus identities. Why do you think that is?
Great question.
I wouldn't really
Yeah.
ask why.
So there's various theories. Some people think it's because if we're already weird and different and we already transcend societal expectations due to our neurotype, then we're more likely to not try to fit into societal expectations in terms of
Mhm.
sexuality and gender identity. I actually don't think it is that. I think we're
Okay.
born this way, and we're just less likely to deny it and to go along with whatever cis-het normative upbringing that we might have. Maybe we're more likely to be open about it and disclose it. I don't know. I have to acknowledge my privilege here because I'm a middle class white woman living in a country that is not war torn. We don't have a dictator. And so I've got a certain amount of physical safety. I'm not even talking psychological safety here. I can be bi and autistic, and I'm not worried someone's going to shoot me in the street if I have a a
Mhm.
meltdown. But
Yeah.
if I was black or I lived in America or anywhere where
Yeah.
it's not safe to have those identities, it would be a different story. But I
Mhm.
think that there probably is a biomedical link, and I really don't want researchers to look into this and to find it, because I'm
Mhm.
concerned that we might end up being wiped out of the population by eugenics if anyone ever did find
Mhm.
that link. So I asked my
Mhm.
kids why they think that there's a link, and Jay, who is gender queer, said, "I don't know, we're just built diff. Deal with it." And that Gen Z attitude is what I absolutely want to be carried
Yeah.
through the whole of
That's awesome.
society.
It's like the new lingo as well. Like even the way that they're talking. I love that they're creating their new language. It's just like
Yeah,
it's about time that we shaped up.
absolutely. Jay has such gems of wisdom. It's like
That's awesome.
when you ask her what normal is, she would say it's a mode on Minecraft and not even the best mode.
Can you ask Jay if I can steal that line?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She'd be fine with that.
Oh, that's such an awesome line. I don't even play Minecraft, and I think that would go really well with my clients.
Mhm.
No, I think I'm going to ask you the next question because I could literally speak to you for hours on every point that you're raising now. So I'm going to try and see if we have some time at the end because we've got some good questions here too. Do you think that neurodivergent changes how people experience or understand identity?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I think when we're kids and we're neurodivergent, that we can collect identity labels that other people foist upon us.
Mm.
And it's quite difficult to go through a process of peeling those labels off and sticking on the ones that we are comfortable with. So
Mm.
it's not the same for everyone, I know. And I've noticed a distinct difference between autistic people diagnosed in childhood versus those identified later in life, like myself. But
Mm.
there's a certain power that we can get from embracing a label and applying it to ourselves like it's our own choice rather than like a way that society condemns us. Yeah, it's very different and very unique for different people. But I like look at ADHD, for instance. So autism came from the pathological model, the medical model of disability.
Hmm.
So did ADHD. It even has disorder right there in the D. But when you put ADHD together, that's a community label. No doctors have invented that. That's what people who are autistic and ADHD have decided to call ourselves. So there's a
Hmm.
great power in that. What we
Hmm.
lack in systemic power, we make up for in community power when we do things like that.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing that I want to work towards as an academic is to bring those together, because I think we're lacking so much in academia where, I was doing a keyword search for my scoping review at the moment, and that I'm doing at the moment. And the keywords are not the ones that we're struggling with as ADHDers or ADHDers, because I want to focus on masking, camouflaging, internalizing symptoms, rejection sensitivity, and those ones aren't in the
Yeah.
keywords of any of the journal articles.
Yeah.
So even academics are still using autism spectrum disorder, autism,
Just call it
autistic. And I'm like,
autism.
come on, guys, let's get with the
So
program.
it's the
But
move
yeah,
to identity first language, I think, is really powerful. And there are
mm,
still quite a lot of people that are behind on that conversation or don't really get it. So we still see
yeah.
people correcting us on social media saying, don't say you're autistic, say you have autism, you're a person first. And I'm thinking, if you need to go around reminding me I'm a person, it's not me that has the problem with this.
That's
And you are
hilarious.
actually stigmatizing me with that approach. It's just
Oh, I thought I
just
was
say
a
autistic.
dog.
It's an adjective, you know? It's only a harmful adjective if you think there's something wrong with being autistic, and I don't.
Oh, Charlie, you need to create, like, you and your daughter need to create like a book of like dry humor, because this
Yeah.
is hilarious. This is hilarious.
I keep meaning to chop the bits like that out from my live streams and
Oh
podcasts and things, but
no.
I have ADHD and I forget.
Oh no, you have to really keep them in, chop them out because you don't want them there.
Yeah.
No,
Chop
I
them up,
would like.
chop them to just put those bits on TikTok
Oh,
and
right,
YouTube, yeah.
right. Oh, yes, definitely. Like, I'll try and get these bits here for you. Okay, what about this one about late realization? So many people talk about late realization. We did touch on this, whether that's being neurodivergent or queer or both. Why does it often take so long? I know about the neurodivergence, but I think also a lot of
Yeah,
people maybe have questions about when do you truly understand your identities?
yeah. So if we look at bisexuality, for instance, I always knew that girls can be pretty and that I can be drawn to them. It's not until puberty that I realised it was a sexual attraction, literally by cues from my own body with how I responded. Say, a lot of the time, this someone of my age, it's going to be Rachel Weisz in The Mummy or Winona Ryder in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah,
Well, Charlize Theron,
and
she's
we
like my,
right,
I,
okay.
I think she's so cute.
I have the same kind of feelings I might if it was a boy that I fancy.
Okay, yes.
And then I realised that bisexuality is a thing and that that's me. But what I hadn't realised is that it wasn't the same for everyone. So one of
Mm,
the problems with identifying difference is that we don't get to live in somebody else's head to see what it's like for them. So we can often assume that others see things the same way. So that can be
mm,
why we struggle with things like sensory issues, for instance, and wonder why other people are not overwhelmed, and then
okay.
later realise that it's autism or ADHD, and then think, oh, right, so it isn't like this for other people.
Mm,
That's kind of what I went through with bisexuality. But I
okay.
wasn't that old, and I know people that have not admitted to themselves until they're in their 40s that they
Mm,
have same gender attraction as well. They just thought
yeah.
they admired certain people that are the same gender.
It's a very interesting topic, hey, because I mean, I'm in my 40s now and I'm definitely attracted to women too. But if I would say this to some of my friends from back home, like my high school and primary school friends, they'd be like, oh, are you lesbian now? And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not, it's not like I've just changed and, like swapped and changed. This has always
Mm,
been a thing. I mean,
yeah.
I just think people are scared to mention it out loud because you immediately, this is obviously with a lot of, what do you call it? Like naivety. I don't
Mm,
think people's intentions are always mean. I think they're just clueless sometimes. And they'll say,
yeah.
like, oh, now you're in that box.
They just need to be a bit more open-minded and curious, I think.
And
And
honest about
I do
themselves, maybe.
wonder whether BiPAN is the default sexuality and that people are maybe only monosexual, so straight or gay, if they've been brought up that way and they hadn't considered other options.
It's a good question.
And we see, I mean, they did in the last census here in the UK in 2021, they asked 16 and 17-year-olds to take part in that, not just over 18s. So, and they asked them questions about sexual orientation and gender as well. So I really want to see the results of that
Yeah.
because I think that given that Gen Z and Gen Alpha and beyond have just got access to more information, that more
Mm,
of them will realise, no, I don't have to be straight just
mm,
because that's what's represented all around me in society.
yeah.
They will know that the other identities exist, and they're more likely to realise that that fits them better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And they're also quite rebellious because they
Yeah,
don't just take their parents' voice as the truth, which I did. And now I'm like, oh, okay, no, I shouldn't have done
yeah.
that. That's
So
not, that wasn't true.
yeah, I know so many people with het lag, and it's like they assume they were straight, and then they hang out with neurodivergent people that are more open about not being straight, and then they think, actually, yeah, that's me as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, I think just staying open. That's the best that we can do as a human being. And,
Yeah,
just being reminded that we're humans. I'm joking.
and don't knock it till you've tried it. I'll say to anyone younger.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm on my
Yeah.
second marriage now, so I'm settled down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Try.
definitely. Get around a bit when you're younger.
Yeah, see what's out there, and yeah, just I think I met somebody recently that told me he wouldn't say no to anything. I was like,
Mm,
"Whoa, that's refreshing." It's nice to
yeah,
hear that from somebody in my age group. Okay, without further ado, let's continue with the next question. How does masking show up differently when somebody is navigating both identities? That must be quite intense to mask.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever masked that heavily that I could pass for normal. I don't think I've ever passed for normal, but
Yes, that's good.
yeah, I've certainly masked in the way that, say, I'm in a lot of meetings, I'm trying not to butt in and dominate the conversation. I'm trying really hard to speak when it's my turn to speak and not to roller over anyone's arguments or ideas. And that's a real concerted effort to me. I
Mhm.
don't think I really mask that much in terms of sexuality and gender identity because I've always been a tomboy. Even when I was really young, I wanted people to call me Charlie rather than Charlotte. Finally changed my name to Charlie a couple of years ago
Nice.
officially. But
That's awesome.
I've always kind of been a tomboy and wanted to hang out with the boys and
Mm,
never really been seen as one of the girls, so I haven't really masked that. But I do see other people who are maybe gender fluid or non-binary or even trans heavily masking those identities if they don't feel safe to be their authentic selves.
mm,
And quite often, as we said at the beginning, quite often those people are autistic because there's a massive correlation. So they're already going to probably be struggling with picking up societal cues and
mm.
fitting in any particular group unless they're around their neurokin.
Yeah, that must be. I mean, I'm saying that must be, but it's quite relatable. Like if I
Yeah.
look back at high school years and stuff, this is one of the challenges. But what are some other challenges, unique challenges that people face when they exist in both of these
Yeah.
communities? Would you
So
say?
the real big one for me is if you are trans or non-binary and you're seeking gender-affirming care, if you're diagnosed autistic or ADHD or with any kind of mental health condition or anything like that, that will be weaponized against you. So
How do you
it's
mean?
like people don't treat us seriously and don't give us agency and don't think we know ourselves and our own identities if we're neurodivergent. So
Oh, that's
it's more likely to
horrible.
happen, and then it's less likely to be able to get the gender affirming healthcare that you need. And
Mm,
that then leads to much worse outcomes in terms of mental health and often suicide, tragically.
sure. That's horrible. I know, like, so I wouldn't have placed myself in the queer community, but when I receive an inquiry from a client, a potential client, and they ask me, look, do you have experience working with LGBTQI plus individuals? I would say yes, but I am most probably going to make a mistake, and I would want you to please correct me when
Yeah,
I'm doing that. And I have received so many nice responses from that where the clients then, because they would become clients, they would say, all we want is somebody that just accepts us and just is curious and will
yeah,
listen and just ask those questions because,
absolutely.
yeah, it's like we
The
all want to
tabloid
learn.
press and mass media in general, they like to portray trans and non-binary people as being uh, really militant about pronouns and
Yeah,
things like
no,
that.
it's not
But
been the
the
case.
vast majority care more about your intent. It's more about whether you want to do the right thing and get it right rather than that you have all the answers and know exactly what to say. I
Yeah,
think we can ask questions as well and try and understand, but without being probing. And as long as we're
exactly.
maintaining dignity and respect, a bit of healthy curiosity is a really good thing.
My one trans client told me once, she said, we don't want to be at the spotlight.
No, no.
We
Yeah.
just want to be left alone and happy. And
Let
it's
us
because,
pee in her
yeah,
fed
exactly.
closet. Yeah.
Because she's so good at communicating, very much like you. So I was like, oh, you should be running for president. She goes, Carla, I
Yeah.
just want to be left in peace. Like, I am okay with you, but most of the
Yeah.
people scare me.
This is the bonkers thing. It's like the areas of the media that portray trans women in particular as some kind of threat. I know loads of trans women, and they're so often quiet and unassuming and
Yeah,
absolutely don't make a big fuss about anything. And the
yeah,
idea that they would put people in danger, I'd much rather
yeah.
pee next to a
Ridiculous.
trans woman than many of the cis men that I've met in my life.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, like this woman specifically that I'm talking about is extremely sensitive, very feminine, beautiful, beautiful woman. Okay, what are some, we spoke about this one, but have you seen or experienced misunderstandings within either community about the other? You spoke about that, and this is important for me, I think, because we would believe that these two communities work so well together, but you said also there's some stigma and misunderstandings within the two communities too. Do you
Yeah.
want to elaborate on that a
So
little bit?
the I'm trying to think. The biggest issue like that I see at the moment is gay and lesbian people who don't like trans people. That's a major
Oh,
issue. Yeah, and they can quite often be really disruptive at things like pride marches. And here in the UK, there's even a so-called charity, how they've got charity status, I don't know, who are constantly campaigning about it just being LGB. So there's a lot of us that
yeah,
use the hashtag LGB with the T to emphasize that we're all as one and we stand with our trans
yeah.
and non-binary siblings.
Yeah, that's sad because I mean
Yeah.
it happens even in neurodivergence, right? Like we
Oh,
get a lot of
definitely.
fighting with who's part of it, and also like with
Yeah.
even within the autistic community, there's
Yeah.
okay, but you're not level one, level two, level three, and that
Definitely.
kind of fights. Yeah, it's quite sad because there's so much else that we are trying to navigate through.
Yeah.
Should be
Sonny
fun.
Jane Wise, I think, is a
Yeah, she's
really good
lovely.
person to speak to about that one, because they really shine a light on how many of the less corporate, less palatable areas of the neurodivergent umbrella are completely overlooked and not voiced at
Mm,
all, particularly
yeah.
people with personality disorders and things like schizophrenia, people who hear voices.
Mm,
Like, it seems like the neurodiversity movement primarily only care about the neurodevelopmental innate conditions and
mm,
throw people that have developed mental health challenges under the bus. And
mm,
there shouldn't be that gatekeeping, because neurodivergent was coined expressly to be a term of inclusion, not exclusion. And
mm,
Cassian, who coined it, said this explicitly includes mental health differences.
mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I think it's sad. I think it's we need to do a lot more work. Also, a lot of those conditions that you were talking about, there is also another comorbid neurodivergence that usually stems from more a neurodevelopmental point of view too. So it could be that it's initially bipolar or borderline personality disorder, and then it
Mhm.
turns into an original autistic or an ADHD profile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
find those.
when I was assessed for autism, when I went to my doctor, told him that my son had been diagnosed, or my son had been identified autistic. He was still in the diagnostic pathway, but that I'd realised I was as well. And I gave him a whole load of bullet points on the various different traits. And he was convinced I had borderline personality disorder. So he
Mm,
referred me for assessment, but he said to me, "Don't be disappointed if you don't get the outcome that you were hoping for." It's only later that I found out that he thought I had borderline personality disorder,
mm,
and I think it's just because I'm a woman and I admitted to being sexually adventurous and bipan and
mm,
all these kind of things that this kind of middle class, middle-aged male doctor thought meant that I was crazy, basically. I think
mm.
that's he just didn't know how autism presents in
Yeah.
intelligent professional women and wanted to pathologize my personality.
Mm. Yeah, and I think like with BPD, I have many BPD clients, and it's a very difficult profile to have in itself. And if you're misdiagnosed with BPD, which happens quite often,
Yeah.
with
Only
men
to
it
women,
happens
and
more with
those
yeah.
assigned female at birth, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, mostly, yeah. And with men, it's more bipolar. So they get
Mm.
misdiagnosed as being having bipolar, and then they get medicated and wrongly so
Yeah.
many times. So it's yeah, I mean that in itself is a conversation for another day, but we definitely need to
That's what I
talk
thought I
about it
had
more.
before I knew I was autistic. And it's because I was going through cycles of burnout, self-care, bouncing back hyperproductive, and it
Mm,
was coming and going like that. So I'd put myself back together, go back to work, be really on fire, and then the next time I had 2 competing projects or something, I'd end up with what my doctor said was depression.
it was
I
burnout.
just knowing what I know now, it was cycles of burnout, and that
Mm.
can really look like bipolar.
Yeah. And then you treat it differently. And this is actually what I'm focusing on in my research now. It's like then the treatment is different and everything else then follows that, like the consequences to the treatment. Sunny wrote a really nice book on DBT, neuroaffirming
Yeah.
DBT strategies, which is great. And I think that works across the board for neurodivergent individuals. So anyone wanting to check that out
I'll have to
should.
read it. I read their first book.
It's
Yeah.
like a strategies book. It's not a book. It's just like you can fill out your own sensory profile and, like create like all of these like pockets of safety. It's really nice. I've got it or I gave it to my mom, actually.
Yeah, I'll buy a copy.
That's awesome. Okay, so what are some of the strengths? Let's go to the positive side of the rainbow. Some of the strengths or the positives that come from the intersection that you were talking
Yeah.
about.
So I think it's really cool to be queer and neurodivergent, because we're kind of making up the rules as we go along rather than just fitting into some societal mold of
Yeah.
one normal human shape. So we get to experience a lot more variety and then hang out with awesome people as well. Like pushing the confines of the boxes that human beings are often confined to. And that's
Yeah, it's
only got to
exciting.
be a good thing. But then also we can really experience a lot of joy in things like I get sensory joy a lot from
Mm.
like smells and sounds and experiences, but also I might get gender euphoria and or just really get a buzz out of marching at Pride and going to community events and being around other
Gen-
people who are outside of the box.
Gender euphoria? What would
Yeah,
that be?
so like I'm use she, her, and they, them. And when people remember to use the they, them pronouns, which are optional, they're not like mandatory, they're just
Yeah.
there really mainly to piss off bigots. But if people remember to use them, I'm like, I get a little, yeah, they acknowledge that I'm outside of the gender binary.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Yeah, because I was reading it actually before because I asked you about your pronouns. And I was like, when am I going to use she, her, they, them?
Yeah.
Because I'm just usually saying Charlie.
Yeah. Because you're not referring to me, you're
Yeah,
talking to me.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I could say to the audience, they are awesome. So there we go. I used it. How can embracing both identities lead to a stronger sense of self? I mean,
Yeah.
that question is answered by itself, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, the self that I am now is openly queer and neurodivergent and totally unashamed of it. So I
Nice.
will go and march at Pride with my autism gold infinity symbol on my t-shirt and things. And I just know that if anyone judged me harshly for any of my characteristics, that it wouldn't bother me anymore. So it's my
Nice.
turn to sparkle and shine as my authentic self,
That's
having
awesome.
kind of suppressed things and kept
Mm.
things on the low down for decades when I was less confident.
Yeah, I think that suppression, well, I know that suppression leads to so many chronic illnesses and
Mhm.
I think, diseases and illnesses. And I think if we can find our people, like, at Caboose and through these kind of discussions and really stick to one another so that we feel a bit stronger, then I think it's wonderful. I have three more questions, and then I want to get to these questions. So I'm going to rush through it a little bit so that we have 10 minutes.
Oh yeah,
For somebody who's starting to question or explore their identity, what would you want them to know? Like, what is something that could help them through that difficult
yeah.
process?
So the first thing I would do is research it from others who have that identity. Social media hashtags are great. When I
Okay.
realised that I was neurodivergent, I was going and reading a lot of first-hand accounts of what it's like to be a neurodivergent adult. And you can do the same with the hashtags for the LGBTQIA plus identities as well. And then you're not getting the medicalized,
Mm,
pathologized view of those identities. You're
mm,
just finding your community and finding out what it's really like.
no. I think also sticking to the people that you really relate to, like within those pockets. I did that when I received my diagnosis the first time, like a typical ADHD, I'm pretty sure. I went through the diagnosis process 3 times just to check.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait, same diagnosis. Oh, wait, same
I wish
diagnosis.
they would just assess for both at the same time as a
Yeah,
matter
they
of
should.
course.
Yeah,
Because I
they
do feel
should.
like they coincide more often than not, and I often
Yeah.
feel it's all part of the same spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it would make a lot more sense then that it's not so, oh, ADHD is so different to autism. We're getting closer and closer to, I don't know, understanding one another and then understanding that we're one. Okay, so how can friends, families, or workplaces better support people at this intersection? Maybe just something like if you're listening to this
Yeah,
and you want to help your friend that you know that just said to you, oh, I might be bi, like, what is
yeah,
something that you can just say or do as that friend or family
yeah.
member?
So I think if we can say congratulations for
Yeah.
knowing yourself or something, I
Nice.
just want people to believe us.
Mm.
So never to say everyone feels like that or, yeah,
Mm. Are
everyone
you
finds women
sure?
attractive because they are more attractive than men or
Yeah.
something like that. If we cannot do those kind of standard scripts that diminish how people feel and just accept them without
Yeah.
analyzing,
Yeah, I
then
really
that
like
would be
that.
really helpful.
That those dismissive things, I remember those so well when I just received my diagnosis. Like, are you sure though? Like, we all
Yeah.
do that. Like, we all forget stuff. I'm like, yeah, but do you ruminate about it for hours? Anyways,
Yeah,
okay, I've
yeah,
got
yeah.
to carry
I
on.
was
Yeah.
told I'm quite sociable, so it was a surprise to be identified as autistic. And
Oh
then
yeah.
at a party with that same group of friends, and they saw me with my hands over my ears, rocking backwards and forwards because the music was deafening and there were disco lights everywhere. And they're like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, but it's sad that we need to go to that extreme for people
Yeah.
to actually believe us, you know? It's
Yeah.
like I had to once, I mean, I didn't have to, but I showed my friend my chest because I was like, this is how anxious I am because I usually wear things that close the amount of red that people see when I'm stressed. And I just showed it to her and she was like, oh my word, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and that was just a noisy restaurant. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
something hectic.
I've got one of those Garmin activities trackers that measures stress. And if I
I
walk
just
into a
like,
crowded pub, it tells me that I've got an unusually high heart rate and that I need to do some breathing exercises. And all I've done is walk into a pub.
yeah. And then this is the thing. And then from that, we still need to deal with the actual stigma
Yeah.
while we're that overwhelmed. I mean, like you said earlier, which I wanted to comment and then I forgot. A friend of mine who's also autistic, Stephanie Bethany, I had an interview with her and she was telling me she thought until she was in her 20s that everybody just felt that sensory overwhelmed. So she always thought she was crazy. She always
Yeah.
thought like, why can't I handle it? Like everybody else is just so fine with it and I'm freaking out inside. So relax, relax, relax. So hide, hide, hide. And yeah, it takes its toll for
Yeah.
sure.
We can just think that other people are just braving it and actually they're not experiencing it like that.
Yeah. From your experience working with Caboose and the Neuro Nuggets, I'm really happy that you did Neuro Nuggets. What roles does education and community play in helping people feel seen and understood?
Yeah. I think when we can learn from people in our own community, it's going to make us feel like we're not alone and
Mhm.
that, yeah, we're not crazy. We're not just being a massive pain in the arse. The
Yeah.
things that we're struggling with that we're asking to be accommodated, um, they're not that much to ask and that it isn't just us.
Yeah, exactly. And also like it is that intense. Like that to me is a big thing. It's like, yeah, okay, I can deal with noise, but it feels like it's inside and it's shaking my brain. Like
Yeah.
that's how intense it is. Charlie, you're amazing. They are amazing. I'm going to go over to the questions really quickly here so that I make sure that I get through everything. Eric was saying, I saw that when I saw the TV Glow movie by A24, that it's written by a trans director about her trans discovery in a more poetic way. But me as a cisgender but autistic person got represented by the movie and also saw that a lot of got represented and a lot of autistic people did as well, maybe
Yeah.
misrepresented. And after the
Well,
searching, I saw the report about queer versus or queer and autistic traits. Do you know about this?
I haven't seen that, but yeah, I think it's really important that we have representation, but because it's so individual, people can get it wrong even then.
Yeah.
And I've watched programs where they have actually got somebody who shares the same characteristics as the character to be the actor, but it still comes across over the top and
Mm,
stereotypical, and that can be unhelpful as well. It's so hard to get it right.
solid.
I'm really happy when I see it done right. So I
Yeah, it's very
totally
hard.
agree. Is that
My
Eric with a
brother,
K, by the way? I can't see the
yeah,
chat pane.
yeah, ER. I see. Okay. My
That's one of
brother's
my
actually.
American friends, I think.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
nice. I have a brother that's he was a director and a writer for movies, and it was very difficult to cast the right type of character or person actor because sometimes you want to cast the person with the profile, but you also don't want to put them in stressful situations. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they can definitely and they should consult and but that's also, I mean, this
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
can
and
of worms that
they're
we're
getting
opening up.
better at it. But, like,
Yeah,
if you look at, for instance, what's her
Hayden,
name? Chloe
Chloe
Hayden, is
Hayden.
it?
Yeah, Chloe
Who
Hayden.
plays Quinny in Heartbreak High.
Yeah.
So she's autistic and she's playing that character quite authentically. It's not that different
Mm,
from how she comes across when she's being herself. But even
yeah.
she's said you only see the palatable side of Quinny's autism. No, you don't
Mm,
see her saying completely the wrong thing and really upsetting somebody or having like a violent meltdown or something. You see her
mm,
getting a bit distressed and flapping a bit, but it's still on the palatable side.
yeah. That's a tricky one. Michelle said, I love the openness. Thank you for sharing, Charlie. It makes a huge difference. And then Eric said, I know that autistic people have some difficulties to understand their feelings. Do you think that
Yeah,
there is an impact about also understanding their sexuality? Me, for example, struggle since I was a teenager about being gay or bisexual. And nowadays I just stopped thinking about this.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So I experience alexithymia, which kind of
Yeah.
means that I'm not that in touch with my feelings until they
Yeah.
overwhelm me completely. So I can be really calm about really stressful things that are happening until I'm not. And
Mm,
this is why I'm saying I didn't really realize I was bisexual until I eventually picked up cues from my own body, because I have issues with interoception as well, which is noticing the body's
mm,
own signs, like when you're hungry or thirsty or tired or cold. So it's all
mm.
slowing down the rate at which we know who we are and accept it and start to advocate for our needs.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to look at those subtle signs. And if you can't, using your watch or using cues like I use, I always feel my neck. And if it's warm, I'm like, need to get out. It's already
Yeah,
too much, you know? So I try to, I used to wear an I watch. What do you call it? iPhone watch? What is it?
yeah,
iWatch, right? Apple
uh,
Watch. Sorry, Apple Watch.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it actually freaked me out because, you know, when you said, it gives you those signs. My heart rate was always really high. So I'm like, I'm gonna die
yeah.
of a heart attack. I need to take this watch off.
My Garmin activity tracker, I do love it, but I have to take it off at night, otherwise I will obsess about how little sleep I'm getting
Sleep.
or
Yeah,
about the
that was the
quality
other
of my
thing.
sleep.
That was the other thing as well. I was like, I can't sleep for 4 hours. And I was like obsessing. And yeah, how we can obsess sometimes.
Mm,
G said, I would have not placed myself in the LGBTQI plus community, but I have always been and in more than one way. My gender identity and sexuality have never been important to me and therefore an issue or
yeah,
something to seek support for. But one day, by curiosity and to be an ally, I looked into definitions and listened to people, and I realized how many letters were fitting me. That's also true, eh? Because I was
yeah,
looking at the letters just so that I don't get it wrong before the call, and I was like, oh, this makes sense for me. So,
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So I think it's quite a common experience to
Yeah.
be outside of the societal idea of normal when you're autistic, and that societal idea of being normal, being cisgender and heterosexual. But it can take a while to kind of realize that. And some people have coined actual words for that, like autigender. Autigender is when your autism has such an intrinsic impact on the way you experience gender that it's almost like your gender is because of autism rather than being man or woman or non-binary
Mm,
or whatever. Autigender
okay.
and neurogender.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more videos. I think, have you, with your Neuro Nuggets, did you do on specific definitions or no?
So I was doing I haven't done the LGBT ones yet. They're on my to-do list, but I did mine
Okay.
about autism and inclusion. and
Okay.
neurodiversity, so more of a workplace. Because that's my
Well,
niche normally, because of my 20 years in HR. I talk about
yeah.
neurodiversity inclusion at work. But I think
Yeah,
it
I
would be
think
really good to do a series on
think so.
LGBTQIA.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Even for neurodivergent people in general, or even people part of the community, I think, like you said, there's some misunderstandings within the community. And then that's not even talking about people that aren't part of either communities.
Yeah. There's a book I can recommend meanwhile.
Yeah,
So
what is that?
it's written by Erin Eakins, and
Okay.
it's called Queerly Autistic. Erin released that about 7 years ago, I think, and she's just released a workbook version to go alongside that, Queerly
Nice.
Autistic.
Clearly
And that's
autistic.
suitable
Okay.
for teenagers as well. It's quite accessibly written.
That's awesome. Thank you. All of these resources are great. Okay, Charlie, this is lovely. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hearts here from the audience too. So thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your time. And I would love to speak to you again because I think there are
Yeah.
so many topics that we kind of like opened up and yeah, just so many things that I want to go back to.
Well, I'm happy to come back another time.
Awesome. Oh, that would
It's
be
been
great. Yeah.
great, yeah. It's like
This is just
chatting with an old friend over a pint or something.
That's awesome. Yeah, next time we should have like a little
Yeah,
beer. That's awesome. We might need to do it a bit later so that I don't have sessions afterwards.
yeah.
This is a reminder just to our audience that we have a range of divergent discussions coming up. You can find all of those details in the Caboose app, as well as our newly launched Neuronuggets, where Charlie is also on. Neuronuggets are short, practical guides that help you understand how your brain works and find ways to make work and life easier. They're also for workplaces to help create more inclusive spaces created by neurodivergent people for neurodivergent people and everybody around us. And then we will send you a very short 2-minute feedback survey after this, and we would really appreciate it if you could fill this in because it helps us to get more amazing guests like Charlie. Thank you everyone for being here,
Thank you so
and
much.
thank you for the hearts too.